Hi, it's Greg Dwyer. Welcome to Mindful Conversations After Hours. My guest today is Mark Iwanicki. He's an artist, but he deals also with the mind, and I know we're going to have a very mindful conversation. Mark, thanks for being on the broadcast.
Great to be here, thanks.
So your business card says three things. It says art, it says tarot, and it says alchemy. So explain yourself. Why did you put that on your business card?
Well, starting in 2013, I went down a path of artwork. There was something psychologically coming up inside of me that needed some type of expression.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and you read any type of esoteric psychology book and they'll start talking about art and its healing power. So
you're kidding.
Yeah, so
Wow.
for me, art has been a very healing process.
I just had a guest on. Do you know Michelle Morelli? Does that name ring a bell?
It sounds familiar.
She talked about art and therapy and how
Yeah.
it works together, and you're telling me the same thing.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Okay, so it led you down that path.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So because I'm a huge fan of psychology, I've been studying it for many, many years now. And tarot has huge links to psychological concepts.
With Carl Jung?
With Carl Jung,
Okay.
exactly.
Archetypes?
Archetypes, elements, fire, water, air, and earth, all of
Okay.
these things are related. So
Okay.
over the course of a couple of years, I just kind of tried to blend them all into just myself. Like, there's a big talk about a personal brand. Like, what's your personal brand?
Yeah, like who are you?
Right, right. So I like to think of myself as an artist,
Okay.
tarotist, sometimes they'll call it, and an alchemist.
Right. Now, what's an alchemist?
Well, you're going to get a lot of different definitions of that. For my purposes, I like to think of myself as it's a way to understand the mind
Okay.
using images.
Right.
You look at any ancient alchemical text, and they'll have all these strange and beautiful images of these phoenixes flying out from a vase, or a sun and moon coming together, or a male and female coming together. And they also have lots of astrological concepts embedded within those artworks.
I was just in Arizona, so I'm at the airport. It's like 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm walking through the airport, and I'm thinking about these things that you're talking about. There's no coincidence here, you know. And maybe about a year ago, I would have never connected art with esoteric thinking or with philosophy. It was just like, there's art and there's this, separate entities, you know? So I'm walking by and I see this phoenix. Now, obviously, I'm in Phoenix. I'm at the airport, and I see this red phoenix, and it's all red, and it's this fiery animal coming up out of the fire, right? And the beak, or the nose, is in the shape of a moon. And I'm thinking to myself, is that a coincidence, or is that the moon, and the phoenix is the male, and they're trying to tie the two together, or am I just connecting things that are not there, you know?
No, that's exactly it. You got it. You hit it right on the nose.
I saw it. Yeah. So there's these symbols that, you know, they say something, but then they say something deeper to the subconscious, don't they?
Well, I mean, they're so interesting to look at, and that's what they're made for. They're made for people to explore them and look at them and say, well, why did this person spend so much time putting these strange images onto paper? And I mean, nowadays we have so many books. Like, paper is I mean, you toss paper constantly. But back in those medieval and earlier times, paper was a lot more rare. So you spend a lot of money putting these amazing images onto paper. We should probably take a look at them. That's the way I like to think of it.
And especially with that kind of work, if somebody wrote something down and then they repeated it, and then they repeated it again, or an image was repeated, it was expensive. There was a reason for it. They wanted to call your attention to it.
Exactly.
So what are some of the art pieces that do you do art yourself? I mean, do you sell art? Do you produce art? Or is this just for your own pleasure?
Well, I do produce art.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Selling, that's a little bit different.
Okay.
It's a little bit harder to do, as you can imagine.
Gotcha.
But a lot of my work tries to incorporate some of the concepts that alchemy tries to bring forth as well.
Is alchemy just chemistry, or is there something deeper to it?
Well, a scientist will tell you that alchemy was just the precursor to chemistry.
Right, I've heard that.
Right. And there are some chemical relations to the science of chemistry.
Okay.
But if you take a little bit deeper and look at it etymologically, the word alchemy,
Right.
it's alchemy, which in Arabic language means from Chemi, and Chemi was Egypt. In
Oh,
ancient times, Egypt was known as Chemi.
I didn't know that. So what does Chemi mean? It means Egypt?
It means Egypt.
And,
So
okay, and what's the connection? It's just, that's old Egypt? Is that what it was?
yeah, ancient Egypt.
Okay.
Again, we're talking about images, we're talking about art.
Yeah.
You think about Egypt and you see all of these amazing hieroglyphics and
Oh, absolutely.
amazing archaeological structures. These were all, I guess, corollaries to the study of alchemy.
Okay. I just finished the book called The Alchemist.
Yes.
I was in a bookstore in Manchester and I went in and I saw it. It caught my eye. Tony Robbins did a little blurb on the back and I thought, well, it can't be bad. And I just finished it. And I almost think I need to read it again because I don't know if I really got it. I'm sure you read it.
I have read it.
What's the purpose of it? I mean, is it someone looking for the treasure and he finds it within himself? That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Oh, it is, okay.
I mean, I don't want to ruin the book
Okay.
for some people, but
Okay.
yes, the main character takes a circular loop
Okay.
through his life.
Okay.
And that's kind of what the process of alchemy is. It's
Interesting.
in Carl Jung terms, it'd
Yeah.
be the process of individuation.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, if you think of children when they're growing up, they like to band together, right?
Right.
They're always trying to be like each other. They're always trying to compare themselves to each other. It's kind of what Carl Jung would call an undifferentiated consciousness. Like they haven't fully
Yes.
developed themselves
As separate entities, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So the process of individuation is not necessarily only for children. It happens as adults too. I mean, we're born into this world, and there's people in our lives, and they tell us who we are, and they tell us what we should do, and what we need to do in order to have a happy life.
Right.
It's not always the case, though.
No.
Because there's some kind of spirit inside of us that is always guiding us, sometimes very quietly, to experience the things that our spiritual nature needs to experience here on this physical
So
plane.
finding your purpose is your journey, is what I got from that book.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's finding the treasure within yourself.
Finding it.
Going through life, having all of these experiences, some of which are positive, some of which are negative, but at the end of the day, it's all a matter of finding what is resonating with you internally and what doesn't resonate with you.
Right. And everybody has a different map of reality.
Sure.
And everyone's on a different journey. I guess that's why people get along together and other people don't get along together. They don't see the world the same way. What do you think about Joseph Campbell's concept of the hero's journey? How does this all tie in with the tarot?
Yeah, the hero's journey, that is the process of individuation.
Oh, it is.
And it's a mythical depiction of that.
Okay.
And that's the power of myth that Joseph Campbell always talked about, is
Right.
to think of your life as a mythology. Like, I'm not just here going to work, making money
Right.
just so I can pay my bills.
Sure.
I'm here for some kind of grand adventure.
Oh, wow.
And the day-to-day things that happen to my life are the beasts and the minotaur that I have to slay.
Nice. It gives you meaning to your life.
It gives you meaning. It makes a lot more fun. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like not being an avatar. On computers, don't people play avatars? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Or these second lives, these fake lives?
Sure.
There's got to be a reason why people are drawn to that.
yeah, it's a mirror for what's actually happening in their lives.
I love
we
that.
incarnate in our bodies,
Right.
But we're souls.
Right.
But where does our soul nature belong? It's somewhere watching.
Right.
So when you take yourself out of the equation, things just become a little bit more magical.
Well, what do you mean take yourself out of the equation? Like looking at the big picture? Like recognizing it's all a stage and you're playing a part? What do you mean by that?
Well, yes, that's part of it.
Okay.
And this is probably getting into my worldview a little bit.
I'd love to hear it.
I see this this physical form that I'm inhabiting as a tool for me to do something here on this earth
Right.
plane.
Right.
So it's just a tool,
Right.
which I will use for 70, 80, 90, 100 years if I'm lucky. And then at some point I will go back to wherever it is I came from. At least that's what I like to believe.
Well, that's the circle. So what do you say to someone that says, hey, you know what, you're just born, it's just a chance, you didn't have anything to say or do with it, and you just live your life, and life is not that great, and then you die? I mean, what do you say to people that are just, they don't believe in anything spiritual, they don't believe in anything supernatural, they don't believe in any kind of myth or anything outside of what they see, touch, and can hear? And what would you say to those people?
Well, I wouldn't try and convince them otherwise.
Right.
Because that's their journey. That's what they want
Right.
to experience.
It's almost like The Matrix. I'm thinking of the movie The Matrix.
Yep.
Some people want the red pill, some people want the blue pill,
Sure.
some people want to be woken up, some people think, you know. The other thing is just so many people are struggling. Homeless people, or people that are struggling with addictions, or people that are struggling with relationships. It's not easy out there.
It's not.
Have you ever tried to help people or give them hope or encourage them with this worldview that you have, or do you keep it to yourself?
In spots.
Okay.
In spots. Like
Right.
you pick your spots.
Right.
I'm no savior to anyone. Like
Right.
no,
Right.
you're not going to save anyone. I'm not going to
Right.
save anyone.
Right.
Everyone's got to save themselves.
Exactly.
And if I can see a small time that I can provide some encouragement or just give a little tip, then who knows?
Right.
And it could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Sure.
I could be getting them off of their spiritual path.
Right.
So I'm very, I try to be very mindful of
Right.
those
Well,
type of
this is the thing that I struggle with, all of this talk of, willfulness, because once you understand that you're here for a purpose, where's the fine line between, all right, I know that I'm going to do this and I'm going to put my will and energy into making this happen, versus thy will be done, or maybe this isn't for the greatest purpose. Maybe I need to pull back and let someone else do something else. I mean, how do you know the wisdom? It sounds like the serenity prayer, the difference between knowing, how to change things and not change things. Where do you get the wisdom, or do you just hope and pray
I
that
don't
it
know.
works?
I don't know that I have any wisdom.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I'm just doing the best I can, just like everyone else.
Did you make it rain today?
I wish.
Last week we were here, and the producer said to me, you should mention that the rain, because you can actually hear it, and they're looking to actually make it go away with soundproofing. But yeah, I mean, you can't control the weather, but you can control inside,
Sure.
right? You can control what things mean to you and how you see the world, and whether you let people get under your skin, or whether you let circumstances, throw you off guard.
Sure.
So let's talk about the tarot. Is it an evil, fortune-telling, satanic deck? What's the history of the tarot? I don't know anything about it, and I don't know if people listening or watching know either. So what would you say the history of the deck is?
Well, I love tarot.
You do?
I read tarot.
Okay. And what does the word mean?
Tarot, well, it's got multiple interpretations.
Okay.
Some people think tarot means road, royal road. I forget which language it is,
Okay.
but it's like the royal road to selfhood, so to speak.
Okay.
Other times, one of the cards, the Wheel of Fortune, has the word tarot
Oh, it does.
inscribed around
Okay.
a circle, and it also says rota. So tarot rota. It's like
Right.
a circle.
Right.
So it's kind of a circular.
Which is life, maybe?
Life is a circle.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
But for me, tarot is a way to understand what's going on in my life, and when I'm reading for other people, to help them understand what's going on in their lives. It's not like a trick where I'm trying to predict the future. It's
Right.
it's a
Right.
conversation,
Right.
and it's a tool to help stimulate a good conversation.
Okay.
And there's lots of psychological attributes embedded within the tarot. There's lots of astrological elements embedded within the tarot. But it's an image.
Okay.
And image is the root of the word imagination.
Interesting.
So I like to see tarot as a way to calibrate your imagination.
Okay.
We all have a little voice talking in our head, or giving labels to the events that happen in our lives. Oh, that was a great thing that happened. Oh, it was a terrible thing that happened.
Right, we're constantly doing that.
We're constantly doing that. The tarot is neutral. It has no opinion other than the opinion that the reader and the questioner put to it. So I often tell my clients that I'm not predicting the future.
Right.
I am not a psychic.
Right.
I can't read your mind.
Right.
I don't know any of that stuff.
Sure.
But I can tell you what this card means.
Sure.
And I will tell my clients that the things that I say will often dance around a topic that they have in their mind.
Right.
And there may be one word or one phrase, and it'll, boom, nail it for them.
Sure.
And I don't ask them to share that with me.
Okay.
But I say if that happens, then that's what we're talking about. And all the rest of the things that I talk about are applying to that specific issue or person or whatever it is that they have in their mind. And I've gotten very good feedback.
Wow.
Because they are, as I said, they're archetypal.
Yeah.
The images on the tarot are images that everyone can relate to.
Right.
I was just telling a friend there's an image for the 10 of Wands, which has a guy carrying a lot of sticks.
I know the card, yeah. And
So-
it's this idea of being overwhelmed. Am I right?
Exactly.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Or taking on duty
Yeah. Taking on duty.
and doing it happily.
Okay.
Because we don't see his face. We don't know whether he's happy or
Right.
sad.
So there is room for interpretation. There is
Absolutely.
room for imagination. Now, when I studied magic, when I mean magic sleight of hand back in the 70s, we would talk about the tarot and we would talk about psychic stuff as basically sitting down with a poor man's psychiatrist. Like you pay a psychiatrist $200-300 an hour, you go to a tarot reader, maybe it's $1 a minute, $60 for an hour or whatever and the person is telling you what you want to hear, and then there's a little bit of cold reading, and it's a little generic, and it's general so that people can hang their hat. Do you think that's true, or do you think there's something really going on here? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just playing devil's advocate, no pun intended.
It depends on the relationship with the reader and the questioner.
All right.
Just like with a psychiatrist. If you go to a psychiatrist and you don't like him or her,
there has to be rapport.
There has to be a rapport, exactly.
Exactly.
I happen to think that based on the unconscious mind, that there is something happening there that's mirroring something in the back of our minds. So I just like to see myself as helping people to interpret that, because there's always that small tickle, that still small voice that's trying to tell us something that we often ignore. It's that intuition that we've been taught to actually to ignore.
How important do you think that is? You mentioned mirror and you mentioned reflection a few times.
Yeah.
How important do you think the subconscious mind is in just the health of a person versus the conscious mind, which I think is really limited?
Yeah, well, and what do they say? That we use, our conscious mind is only 5% of all the things that are happening in our brain at one time. So it's just a small little window into what's actually happening.
We think we're really in control.
Sure.
We think we really are making decisions. I was reading the other day that when you decide to do something, let's say you decide to pick up a book or you decide to pick up a glass, your brain's already decided to do it, and then you think it later. There's a second delay or it's not reality. We think we're making a choice, but our brain is telling us to do it before we even know we're going to do it.
Yeah, but it's a trigger. Like the closest people in our lives will often trigger us into doing a same behavior all the time. Every time you say this, I do this.
Oh yeah, like Pavlov's dog.
It's sure. So.
And it's like a trance, right? And people are living in this trance state of trigger, response.
Some people, sure.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I think the tarot is a useful thing, because it makes you stop and analyze things and become aware. It's not just I'm in my mind, I'm going through my daily routine. I get up at this time, then I do this, I make my breakfast. These things are all happening unconsciously. How many times have you gotten in your car, 20 minutes later, you got to where you were, and you don't remember one thing that happened?
Yeah.
That transpired.
You're on autopilot.
It's on
You're
autopilot.
just going through it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens to most people. They wake up out of the sleep, and then they're in a trance. And I do the same thing, and we do the same thing over and over again until maybe some outside event comes in and shakes us up, or we meet somebody new, or we travel to a new destination. But I think most of us live within this box of a comfort zone.
Sure.
You know.
You just made me think of a quote from Carl Jung, and I'm paraphrasing.
Okay,
it.
great.
I don't
I'd love to hear
know
it.
for sure the exact words, but it's the unconscious presents itself to you as fate. Like unless you become conscious of your unconscious behavior, it presents itself in front of you as fate.
And what does that mean? What exactly did he mean by that?
Well, I mean, that's if someone's going into the same relationships with the same type of person over and over and over again, over and over again. You go into this type of relationship, I can't stand this type of person.
Right, sure.
Well, why do you keep dating this type of person,
there
right?
you go. There's a pattern.
There's a pattern. It's there to teach you something, to show you the things that you don't know about yourself, and that's the shadow work that Carl Jung put forth.
Well, it's interesting that I called you a couple days ago, invited you, because we had Michelle on. I went out and saw a friend of mine in Arizona. We were talking about Jung. We were talking about archetypes, and here you are talking about this as well. And I think it's important, you know, to share information. Some people listening might believe in it. Some people might not. Maybe I'm a little skeptical. But I think having a conversation about these things are really important. How do folks get a hold of you?
They can go to my website, which has some of my artwork as well.
Oh, nice.
Iwanicki Media.
You got to spell that.
Of course.
Okay.
Iwanicki media.com. You can email me.
Okay, cool.
Mark@iwanickimedia.com. Find me on Facebook.
And you're also on Facebook. You got a following on Facebook too, so people would and you accept. Are you up to 5,000 friends yet? Are you close to that number?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not that extroverted.
You know, I'm not either, but I just keep on adding friends, you know. I think I'm at 4,500, close to it, you know.
That's the cutoff, is 5, right?
I think it's 5, and I just can't wait to get there, you know. And then let a couple people go and say, yeah, you can come in, you know. But it's fake, it's not real, and none of that is real, you know. People look at these photos and videos, and it's just a snippet of what real life is all about, you know.
Yeah, well, it's images.
It's images.
Right.
Yeah. So we mentioned will, we mentioned imagination. Is there a fourth component? Would it be action, just taking action and responsibility for your life?
Sure. You have the imagination.
Okay.
You have the willpower the will to take the action. It's like a connection of mind, body, and spirit. Spirit is the inspiration that we get, like, oh, I've always wanted to do this in my life.
Right.
You think about how could you do it. You talk to people like, hey, I have this idea, or I have this intuition,
I can
or
relate.
inspiration, and I want to do this.
Yes.
And then the body, all right, get on the street and start walking.
Right.
Do it.
Yeah. I was reading something the other day that the first thing you do is you take an action, and then you bring it to the world, and then you get a result, and then you get some feedback, and then you get some knowledge, and then you tweak it, and then you go and take another action. Just keep on spiraling up and getting better and better. Whatever, art, music, lecturing, speaking, photography. Interviewing, yeah. And I think what's sad is most people are afraid to step out and take action outside of their comfort zone because they're afraid to fail, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. It is, but that's the lesson that they're here to learn.
Right. So give your information again.
It's Iwanicki Media, Iwanicki media.com, Mark@Iwanicki Media, or you can find me on Facebook.
And are you working on any special projects or anything coming up?
In February, I will be giving a lecture to the Astrological Society of Connecticut, February 20th at 7 p.m. at the Keeney Memorial Center in Wethersfield.
Excellent. So they're going to reach out to you to find out about that, and maybe I can come as well. So thank you. I know we gave you a mindful conversation. Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I'm telling you from my heart, this was very meaningful to me. And I would say a coincidence, but we both know that this is not a coincidence.
No such thing.
So thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it.